All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to What the Sheet. And in today's episode, we are going to be making the ladder shelves. I got to make two of them, so that's why I got all this lumber here. So each one of these 1x8s will be turned into 4 shelves, and then these two stacks of 2x4s will be the legs. And these are basically blanket ladders, but instead of having that thin rung that's usually like a 1x2 or a 1x3, this is going to have a shelf instead. And this way you can put pictures or small knickknacks on it. In this case, this is for my wife's aunt, and she wants to put their family photos on there. And she needs two of them because they got a lot of kids and a couple grandkids and all that stuff. And this is a 1x8. So I do believe this is 7.5 or 7.25 inches wide and 3/4 inches thick. So if you wanted to make this, you could either use a 1x8 or 1x10. 1x10 I do believe is like 9.5 inches wide, so it'll give you about another 1.5 inches or so, or no, 2 inches for depth. So if you want to put some bigger stuff on there, that works out fine. And like I said, so each one of these is going to cut into 4 even sections, so it'll be roughly 2 feet wide. For the shelves, it'll be a little bit under because I got to make sure I get them all the same length. And then the shelves or the whole thing, once it's assembled and leaned up against the wall, will be roughly 6 feet tall from the base to the very top where it rests against the wall. And yeah, it should look. Move my Pepsi out of the way. Not sponsored, unfortunately. It should look something like this when it's done. So this is exactly what the wife's aunt was looking for. So she wants two of them so they can sit side by side in their large family room, and then they're going to have all their pictures and stuff stacked up on here. And then in their family room, they have a recliner that sits kind of in this area here, so there'll just be a small walkway in between. And I have it so that the bottom kicks out 1.5 feet from the base of the wall, and then this will rest against the back of the wall. And I have these little felt pads, which you could use for like chairs or something like that. And I'm going to stick these on the back side here to rest against the wall, so that way it doesn't mar or scratch their wall once they're set there. And that way, if anybody bumps them, they're more likely to kind of slide a little bit than scratch anything. So I got these as just an extra precaution. But for the most part, this should be a relatively simple build. If anybody's ever made a blanket ladder or even a blanket shelf, if you've done this exact project before, it's not too complicated. I think most people, when they make this, they don't cut the corners. They just leave it all square and then just lean it. And they might even, if anything, they'll notch the top where it touches the wall, so it has a little bit more of a solid resting spot there. But in this instance, I'm going to notch the bottoms and the top, just because this is going to be resting on carpet. So I want to give it that notch so it's got a good solid foot in the carpet, and it'll maybe even dig in a little bit once it's sitting there. That way it doesn't run the risk of tipping over, especially since this is going to be holding pictures and stuff. So I don't want it to either kick out from the bottom or have somebody bump it and the whole thing tip over. Either be too top heavy and flip that way, or like I said, if somebody bumps it, I don't want the bottom to go kicking out and falling and breaking stuff. So I've already figured out my first measurement, or my first degree measurement for the bottom, for the feet. And it's 14 degrees on the miter saw. And the length from the bottom to the top here, I think it was like 74 and like a half, I think. 74 and 7/32. So what is that? Quick math, not very good. 74 1/4 would be close enough. It's a little bit over 6 foot long, but once you lean it, it ends up being around 6 feet. And like I said, these will be just under 2 feet each. So probably like 23. I think I'll just do 23 inches. That way I have a little bit of give on the ends here. And then for attaching the shelves to the runners or the supports, I'm not going to use pocket holes. I'm actually going to use dowels. So I have a dowel kit that I'll use, and what I'm going to do is once I get everything cut, I'm going to measure down from the top edge, and I have like the first shelf set so that the first shelf and the top of the that notch will all be resting against the wall. So once I get that measurement set, the angle that'll be here should be 14 degrees, just like it was on the miter saw, to match the bottom of the feet to make those shelves level. And then it's just go down a set distance. I think on there I did about a foot. I might keep it, I should probably keep it the same, I think. That way there's enough room to set your pictures up, and there's a little bit of space, airspace in between. That way if you have a bigger picture, or if they decide to put some other knickknacks on there, they have plenty of room for that. And then I'm just going to do 2 dowel holes on each side, and then match it on the edge of the board here, and that way it'll hold the board flat and keep it from racking back and forth, and it'll also give it enough structural support to put weight on it. And like I said, since this is just being used as mainly like a decoration piece for pictures or knickknacks, it doesn't have to be super sturdy. And I think what I'm going to do on top of the dowels is I have some, I think they're grips or Grks. Hang on, I'll grab them. So I have some of these screws here, or the GRKs, that's what they are. The ones that I want, yeah. So I have some of these GRK screws, and they're a trim screw. So what that means, it's almost like a finishing nail, in the same kind of class as that, but it's a screw. So as you can see, the head on this is super tiny, and it uses a T10 star drive bit, so it's a really small bit. And what happens is when you put this into a piece of furniture or whatever, it leaves a very small hole. Obviously it's going to be bigger than, let's say, a nail hole or something like that, but it's small enough to where, you know, as long as you kind of cover it up a little bit, you could put wood putty over it, or in this case, I'll probably just leave it just because of the stain that's going on here. So this is going to have a darker stain than normal, or than I've normally used. And the block. So this is what it's going to end up being. So this is the Kona stain from Home Depot. That's the Varathane Poly Combo Super Fast Drying Stain. It's the same brand of stain that we've used on the crates and some other projects, and I think it's going to turn out pretty good. And this matches most of the trim and furniture that they already have, so that's why they chose this. And so this is, like I said, this is 2 coats. That's 1 coat, and this has a single coat of poly over the top to give it that light kind of shiny finish to it. And this is just regular pine, so this is the same type of material as these 2x4s and the 1x8s are. So this works out perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the miter saw, and we'll cut all the bottoms on all these boards. I'll make sure to adjust everything so that, you know, this piece, for instance, is going to be probably towards the top or somewhere where I can kind of hide it. And I want to get everything made, or at least all the bottoms made, and then we'll readjust for the top. I think I can still do the top on the miter saw. I might have to use a track saw for that, but if that's the case, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And then once we get those cut, all the kind of the funky angle stuff cut, then we'll go back and I'll reset the saw to 0, and I'll probably set up a stop block, and we'll cut all 8 of the shelves, 4 for each ladder, and we'll make we'll get all those cut. And then from there, it's just a simple matter of finding the top spot to start the first mounting point, and then from there, just going down 1 foot increments until we get to the bottom, and then just drilling the holes on the backside of the shelves and putting some screws in, because I don't really want to use glue because I want to get this done today, and the staining process is going to take a hot minute, especially with the poly. So I want to get it all done today, and then I can get some other projects done around here as well. So I'm going to get the saw going, get these cut, and I will catch you when everything is cut and we're ready to start putting the dowel holes in. And I'll kind of show you how I get myself set up for that and how I get everything measured. So I'll put you in a quick time lapse of me cutting everything. Alright, so I'm just going to jump in here quick and kind of show you how I'm cutting the top notch here. So I got one cut already over there as just kind of to test fit, make sure I got everything right and I want it to look okay. So what I've ended up doing is this top mark here is my 74 1/4. So that means this will be that 6 foot height once it's leaned up against the wall. And then I come in half the width of the board, which is, this is a 2x4, so that means this is 1 3/4 inches. That gives me right in the middle of the board. And then this angle here is 15 degrees. And so what I do is I put my square, my speed square here, and I set it up like so. So I get that pivot point right on the point where those two lines intersect, and then I come down here and I go to 75 and get that right on the line, and that gives me my 15 degrees, because 90 would be like this. So you're just going to do basically 15 minus 90, or 90 minus 15, that gives me 75. So I set 75 here, and then what I do is I just scribe a line at the edge, the bottom edge there, since this is at a kind of at a slope. And then I just flip my square around like so, and then I just finish that line off like that, and that gives me my outline. So what I'll do is I'll straight cut here, and then I'll set my track up and clamp it, and then I'll do my angle cut with the track saw here, and that gives me my finished cut, which ends up looking like this. So then once we're leaned up against the wall, that'll be against the wall, and that'll be a little bit of a kind of a shelf, or kind of an angle piece at the top. That makes it so like this isn't a little bit closer and just being ending at a point. It gives it a little bit more of a, I guess, a gentle finish, if you want to call it that. And this will kick out a little bit more from the wall, I do believe, but that's not that big of a deal. A couple inches isn't going to be end of the world. And then once I go to put my shelves on, that first shelf will probably be ending up somewhere probably right about there. And then I'll just have to kind of do the math and get those holes and the markings and everything level in the right spot. And then from there, it's just a simple going down about 1 foot per shelf. And then we should be ready to get to staining and finishing these. I also want to sand these before I do any staining. So all of these will get a once over with some 220 that's on my orbital sander. That way they all get a nice even finish, even the 1x8 boards. Just because as it is right now, these 2x4 studs, there's some rough spots from where they were cut originally at the sawmill. So I want to get everything to have a nice even finish. And I do believe the 1x8s have a finer finish on them than 220. So by hitting them with 220, it'll probably bring that grit up a little bit. on those, which is fine because I want everything to have an even finish. So once I get everything sanded once over, everything's got a nice even finish. There's no waves. I knocked down some of the rougher spots on these 2x4s, and I knocked down the edges on the top where I cut and on the bottom, so that way nothing splinters. Once that's all done, then I can go through and start assembling this, and then once it's all assembled, then I'll do the 2 coats of stain and a coat of poly, and then let these dry, and then they're getting delivered tomorrow, which would be which I'll already have them delivered by the time you guys see this video, but I'll make sure to take some pictures, or try to remember to take pictures once I get them installed, so you can kind of see what they look like up against the wall and everything. And maybe I'll have the aunt put some pictures on there, so you can kind of get a general idea of kind of what they look like with pictures and everything kind of staged on them. So, like I said, I just got to cut these last 3, sand everything down, especially when I get the printing and stuff that's on the boards off, assemble, stain, and then deliver tomorrow, and then we're done with these guys. So I'll take a picture of these once they're assembled, stained, and delivered, and I'll throw that in at the end of the video. So that's all I got for you guys. If you have any comments, questions about anything I did, or if you want me to cover something that you were a little confused about, or want me to go back over, just let me know and I can make another video, because I'm sure once I make these, somebody else is going to want them, so I'll have to make some more of these later. But that's all I got for this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you're on the YouTube, if you're on Rumble, just comment and watch the video. And BitChute, I guess just comment. It's not really that big of a deal. Just do what you want to do, and like I said, ask me any questions and I'll do my best to answer them, or find an answer for you out on the interwebs. But that's all I got for this video. Peace out.